The first tear fell before the first note even ended. No one knew where it came from. All they saw was an old Russian woman in the huge, freezing Kazan Cathedral begin to shake as a Filipino Christmas song sung by a young man she had never met broke open a memory she had hidden for 62 years. And before the second verse finished, the whole cathedral was crying. But to understand how this impossible moment happened, how a song from a warm island country on the other side of the world made an entire Russian crowd burst into tears in the middle of winter, we need to go back to the beginning. Back to the boy who never thought his voice mattered. His name was Arvin Delapina. 23 years old, a janitor, a dropout, and the last person you would expect to bring a European cathedral to its knees. Arvin grew up in a forgotten alley in Tondo, where Christmas carols weren't about joy, they were about survival. As a kid, he sang Pasko na naman and Ang Pasko ay sumapit just to get coins for rice. People always stopped when he sang. Neighbors, tired mothers, even drunk fathers who never listened to anyone. Anak, take care of that voice, women would tell him. Not everyone is given a gift like that. But Arvin didn't believe them. His father never believed in it either. You won't become successful by singing, his father would shout. What will you eat? Notes? So Arvin learned to stay quiet. He hid his dreams deep inside, like they were something to be ashamed of. At 18, he dropped out of community college. At 20, he became a janitor at an old music hall in Ermita. At 23, he was barely surviving. He cleaned rooms where other people practiced. He mopped floors where other singers warmed up their voices. He threw away trash filled with sheet music he wished he could read. He stopped singing completely, except for one night. It was almost midnight. Arvin thought he was alone. A storm raged outside, lightning flashing through the windows. He was mopping the main auditorium when he noticed an old piano, dusty, broken, missing a key. He sat down. He pressed one note. Something inside him opened. He didn't plan to sing, but the storm was loud, the room was dark, and his heart felt heavy. So he whispered a melody he hadn't touched in years, Pasko Nasinta. His voice floated through the empty hall, soft at first, then stronger, deeper, full of pain he never said out loud. And just as he reached the line, Himig ng Pasko, he heard something, a slow clap. Arvin froze. A tall man stepped out of the shadows. He had silver hair, a long winter coat, and a folder of music in his hand. His eyes were sharp but kind. "My boy," he said in a thick Russian accent, "your voice. Who taught you to carry pain like that?" Arvin panicked. "Sir, sorry, I'm just the janitor here," the man smiled. "I am Maestro Viktor Baranov, conductor of the St. Petersburg Cathedral Ensemble." Arvin had no idea who that was, but the maestro knew exactly who he had found. "Come," the maestro said gently. "Sing again for me." Arvin shook his head. "No, sir, I can't. I'm just a janitor." The old man didn't move. He waited, patient. "If you do not sing," Baranov said, "I will simply wait." "I'm old, I have time," Arvin swallowed. Something inside him stirred. Slowly, almost afraid of what would happen, he sang again. This time the maestro didn't clap, he cried. When the song ended, Baranov whispered, "You do not know what you have, child. But I know it, and the world will know too." Arvin laughed nervously. "Sir, I'm just a janitor. I don't even have proper shoes." Baranov placed a hand on his shoulder. "In my country, a janitor once became the greatest singer we ever had. Greatness isn't about where you start. It's about what lives in your chest." 2 days later, something unbelievable happened. Maestro Baranov officially invited Arvin to perform at St. Petersburg's Kazan Cathedral for their annual Christmas rebirth concert. This wasn't just any concert, it was a major event. Rich and famous people, ambassadors, priests, and international reporters would all be there. Arvin stared at the letter in shock. He didn't have a passport, he didn't have money. He'd never flown on a plane. He didn't even know how to pronounce St. Petersburg. But the maestro had already arranged everything: visa, plane ticket, hotel. All Arvin had to do was show up and sing. He hesitated. His father laughed at the idea. "Go to Russia just to look foolish. You'll starve singing there." His co-workers were also doubtful. This is a scam. They might traffic you." And deep down, Arvin believed it too. "Why me? I'm nobody." But then his mother, quiet as she always was, took his hands. Her eyes were soft but serious. Nanak, when God opens a door, even fear cannot close it. So Arvin, scared, unprepared, still in his old rubber slippers, boarded his first airplane. When he arrived, the cold hit him like a wall. St. Petersburg in December was white and silent. Snow buried the streets, and every breath turned to frost. Arvin's tropical lungs burned with every gust of icy wind. "Sir Victor," he said, shivering, "are you sure I can do this?" "I might get sick," Baranov chuckled. "Russians survive minus 30 degrees. You will survive one concert." Then came the cathedral. It wasn't just a stage. It was enormous, majestic. Every wall, every pillar gleaming under candlelight. Arvin's heart skipped. The audience, grandmothers in furs, priests in robes, men in uniforms, reporters, would all be watching him. And the maestro had chosen the song. Not a Russian hymn, not a famous aria, but a Filipino Christmas song Arvin had never sung for anyone. A song his mother used to hum. A song called Sa Puso ng Bituin, written in 1954 by a Filipino composer who later disappeared during martial law. Baranov had told him, "This song carries longing. Winter is loneliness, Christmas is memory. Your voice holds both." Arvin practiced for days until his voice cracked from the cold. The Russian choir learned the Tagalog words phonetically. Even the cathedral guards hummed the melody in the hallways. But still, Arvin didn't feel ready. He never would. December 24th arrived. The cathedral was packed. Snowflakes drifted outside like falling stars. Arvin stood backstage, trembling. His borrowed suit was slightly loose, and his hands shook so badly he could barely hold the music sheet. He wanted to disappear. He wanted to be the invisible janitor again. Baranov placed a hand on his back. "Listen to their breathing." Arvin froze. The cathedral was silent. Not a cough, not a shuffle. Hundreds of people waiting. "They shall already believe in you," the maestro whispered. "Now believe in yourself." The lights dimmed. A spotlight shone on Arvin. He took a deep breath and he sang, "Sa Puso ng Bituin." His voice was soft at first, hesitant, but the cathedral made every note echo. It soared through the high arches, bouncing off marble pillars, filling the giant space with warmth in the freezing air. Then came the second verse. A soft sob rose from the front row. An elderly woman in a heavy wool coat was crying uncontrollably. She pressed her hands to her mouth. But why? She didn't speak Tagalog. She didn't know Arvin. She had no reason to cry. The choir joined, humming low harmonies. Candles flickered. Steam rose from the audience's breath. Arvin's voice grew stronger, fuller, deeper. Tears streamed down faces everywhere. A man in uniform wiped his eyes. A priest lowered his head, shoulders shaking. The entire cathedral was dissolving into a river of emotion. And Arvin didn't know why. He just kept singing, higher, stronger, until the last line left his lips like a prayer. Silence, absolute silence. Then thunder. The whole cathedral rose. Not clapping, not cheering, sobbing openly, loudly, shamelessly. Arvin froze. He didn't know what he had done. But Baranov knew. He stepped on stage and hugged Arvin. "My boy, that song, your song, was written by a Filipino man whose best friend was Russian." Arvin stared, confused. "That Russian sailor," Baranov continued, "was my father. When he returned to Russia, he brought only one thing, a handwritten lullaby called Sa Puso ng Bituin. He sang it every Christmas until he died. But after he passed, the melody became too painful. I never heard it again." He looked at Arvin, eyes trembling. "Until I found you." Arvin's heart pounded. "Maestro, who wrote it? Do you know his name?" Baranov nodded, his face suddenly pale. The composer was Eduardo de la Pina. Arvin's breath caught. De la Pina, his father's surname. That couldn't be right. His father never mentioned music, never mentioned Russia. But then he whispered, "Maestro, that's my grandfather's name." Gasps rippled through the cathedral. Baranov staggered. He reached into his coat with shaking hands and pulled out a worn, folded paper. Handwritten sheet music, Tagalog, and broken Russian lyrics. At the top, Eduardo D. de la Pina, Manila, 1973. Arvin's eyes filled with tears. "That's his handwriting. My father showed me a photo once. The signature exactly the same." Baranov swallowed. "My father met your grandfather in Manila. They played music together. Eduardo saved my father from drowning during a storm. After that, this lullaby became the song of my childhood. Arvin trembled. A lullaby written by his blood. A lullaby that connected two families across nations. A lullaby that made a cathedral cry. Baranov placed the sheet in Arvin's hands. It belongs to you now. The audience leaned forward, sensing history unfolding. Maestro, Arvin whispered. Why me? You don't choose destiny, Arvin, Baranov said softly. Destiny chooses you. You didn't just sing a song tonight. You resurrected a man both our families thought was long forgotten. The cathedral erupted again, applause mixed with tears. Arvin clutched the sheet to his chest, his grandfather's handwriting burning warm in his hands. And as the bells rang for midnight, Christmas, Arvin's tears fell onto the faded notes. Every drop landing exactly where time had once erased the music. And every person in that cathedral felt the same truth. They had not witnessed a performance. They had witnessed a legacy coming home.